Today's video has been sponsored by Bombas. So being who I am, I get pumpkin-related recipes sent to me all year round. Stuff that might be orange and resemble an actual pumpkin shape, or more normal foods that just happen to use real pumpkin in them. Today's mission is simple: to sort the good from the gimmick, and maybe even come up with a recipe of my own that could check both of these boxes. So let's get right into this one. We've got a long day ahead of us, for sure, whether you want to talk about the pumpkin Ala Vodka, the pumpkin pie tacos, the infamous Spooshi, or even my creation at the end. This is a lot of work. We're going to be on our feet for a long time. So it's a great thing I am equipped with the world's most comfortable socks from my friends over at Bombas. Just over a decade ago now, the founders over at Bombas learned that socks are the #1 most requested item at homeless shelters. And since that day, their mission has been to solve that problem, and they also happened to have created the world's most comfortable sock in the process. And here is my obligatory apology for those who clicked on this video purely for pumpkin tacos. These are my new rag socks that I recently received, made from premium materials, and I have been loving them. Because sock season is upon us, and if you are the sock giver in your friend group or family, look no further than Bombas. Don't miss their new holiday drop, made from the plushiest, softest essentials yet. From the fuzzy socks and plush slippers, there's just about nobody who would be upset by receiving one of these bad boys for their holiday gift. And as always, one item purchased means another one donated by Bombas, so you can feel great about your purchase in more ways than one. So click that link in the top line of the description, or scan the QR code on screen now to go to bombas.com/David, and when you use my code David20 at checkout, new customers will get 20% off of their first purchase. Let's kick this one off with as punchy of a pumpkin recipe as one could possibly be: a pumpkin Ala Vodka. I grabbed some olive oil, heavy cream, and vodka, tomato paste, rigatoni, some parm and nutmeg, crushed red pepper flakes, garlic and onion, salt and pepper, and some pumpkin puree. So I had this conundrum literally every single year around this time, and that is choosing recipes that are worthy of being involved in this month's festivities. At the beginning of all this, I would have just went for the most kitschy, gimmicky stuff there was, such as that viral pumpkin bagel, which is quite literally a plain bagel dyed orange in a pumpkin shape. Like, yes, it looks cool and it gets a lot of views, but is it really worthy of being alongside of all these other recipes? Not so sure. I do not, on the other hand, have the same complaints about this recipe, because once you boil off your pasta in that same pan, I threw all my ingredients down one by one. I really cooked down those veggies. I caramelized the tomato paste. Of course, I finished this with a ton of that pumpkin puree and tried to cook out some of the water. Plenty of heavy cream and the pasta, a big handful of Parmesan, and some nutmeg. It looks great and smells great, and just goes to show you could still make fluorescent orange foods that actually have some real pumpkin in there too. I'm sold. This kind of felt like one of those things that would either be delicious or absolutely disgusting and inedible, and it is definitely the former. This is freaking good. It just tastes like a super extra creamy vodka sauce. I don't even think I would know that there was pumpkin in it, actually. Maybe it has just the tiniest hint of like some earthy type of sweetness, like a squash, so it just goes to show why you shouldn't pass judgment as soon as you see something, because as gimmicky as it sounded, this ended up being really good. And we're right back to the gimmicks, because next up, fresh off a viral tweet, we've got some spooky sushi. I grabbed nori seaweed and rice vinegar, kombu and kosher salt, some sugar, sushi rice and imitation crab, some water, vegetable oil, green onions, and fresh salmon. Is this a bridge too far? You guys can be the judge. I, for one, I'm not really sold either way, because we're gonna make two of the shapes. First, the salmon pumpkins and the mummies. Those are gonna have the fake crab sticks in the middle. But the reason is because you have to form these into a bite-sized shape for sashimi anyways. So why not make them a circle and cut some little eyeballs out for your pumpkin shapes? It's not like you're jumping 10 steps to get here, is my point. So I whipped up my sushi rice with plenty of the rice vinegar, steeped with all my spices and the kombu. I sliced up my salmon, which I was deceived by in the store. Luckily, it kind of works out for us that we need some thin, wide strips anyway, but if I was making normal sushi, I'd be a little peeved with this piece. And after preparing all my pumpkin shapes and the little strips for the mummy wrapping, I threw them all together, and as I was trying my best with the forming of these things, the thing that was going through my mind was how sushi was just one of those foods that was not meant to be tinkered with, really, and it wasn't up until the dawn of the internet food craze. There's just certain foods that are kind of taboo to mess with the makeup of, but that's just all kind of flown out of the window in the last couple of years, and for any amount that I myself have played a role in all of that, I do apologize. Remember that video a few weeks ago where it was the most cursed recipes? This probably belonged in that one. If you are from Japan or value any amount of culture and tradition, I'm sorry. This is such sad imagery. He just coming to meet his demise. Needed a bit of soy, but pretty good. Actually, this one might be worse with the imagery. You guys, you let me know. I love fake crab, by the way. I'm not sure if I've ever said that. I'll admit the rice is a little mushy. Either I added too much water in the cooker or I used too much while forming them. But who really cares? Nobody's gonna make these unless you're very passionate about Halloween and Japanese food. But I am, so. Third today, we've got a dessert, and going back to tiptoeing that line of stupid and maybe practical, they are the pumpkin pie tacos. I grabbed some sugar and heavy cream, cinnamon, powdered sugar, sweet tortillas, butter, vanilla extract, pumpkin pie spice, some rotten cream, and some pumpkin puree. I suppose it's only fitting that at least one recipe from this year's Devil Month includes some cream cheese. At least it's not a ton of it, anyway. But this one's actually deceptively labor-intensive, more than you might think. It's got three main components, starting with the pumpkin pie filling. Then you have to make a whipped cream topping, obviously mostly with the heavy cream and vanilla extract and powdered sugar. Third, and the one I'm most looking forward to, is the crispy cinnamon sugar tortilla shell. And supposedly you can achieve that by brushing some melted butter on tiny tortillas, dipping each side in some cinnamon sugar, and then baking them off in a 400-degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. I think I remember doing this procedure once before and way overcooking the tortillas because they really harden up after they start to cool down. And once they got there, I just loaded everything in and piped the cream, finished it with a sprinkling of the spices, and besides the obvious, already covered issue I have with the ingredients, this doesn't look half bad. You got your zombie fish. I think that's enough.
You should have at least put red on its teeth. Because this is a good set, but it's not spooky enough.
It's spooky with you back there now. I was about to say that I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this. It really does give that initial punch of pumpkin pie. The cinnamon sugar tortillas worked out way better than I thought they would too, but it definitely finishes with that tangy cream cheese flavor I do not like. Damn it. What a waste. I get that the cream cheese is probably also in there for structure just as much as flavor, but there's gotta be something else that we could have used. If you love pumpkin pie and cream cheese, go for it, but for me, it's a miss. So we've covered some things that give you that pumpkin look, that real visual aspect. Also some things that have some real pumpkin and or spices involved. But how about I reimagine one of my recent favorite foods to accomplish both of those things, that being with a pumpkin birria quesadilla. I grabbed a beef round, paprika, onion and garlic powder, and cinnamon sticks. Some dried guajillo, ancho, and morita chilies. Lots of water, bay leaves, and cumin. Fresh nutmeg, whole cloves, and whole oregano, allspice berries, tortillas, fresh cilantro, an onion, garlic, a tomato, queso Oaxaca, white vinegar, and salt and pepper. So yeah, you guys have seen me make this birria recipe many times in the past 2 years or so, so I'm not gonna run you through everything. I'll leave the So I'm not going to run you through everything. I'll just give you the brief general synopsis. If you want the full written up recipe I'm following, it's from a Munchies video. I'll leave it in the description. Just know that it involves a ton of those reconstituted dried chilies, lots of all of the components of a pumpkin spice, which should theoretically blend perfectly with those smoky chilies, that real deep, complex broth that we're going for. And even though this recipe is kind of a beast recipe and time-wise, it's gonna demand many hours of your day, I don't really care. You get that adobo blitzed up with essentially all of your spices and chilies, plop down your chopped up beef, and then either set it over medium-low heat on the stove, or I just like to throw it in a 300-degree oven for about 3 hours. And in addition to pumpkin spicifying the consommé, we are also going to carve our tortillas to look like little jack-o'-lanterns, and traditionally, you dip those tortillas in the fat that renders out during cooking and was sitting on top. So as far as nailing something that was circular, carvable, a bright, beautiful crimson orange, and most importantly delicious, I'm not sure there exists a better recipe out there. I toasted off each side of my quesadilla, allowed that cheese to get melty, I gave it a good chop in half. Do not forget to plate it up with some of that consommé on the side for dipping, lots of the fresh cilantro, and yeah. The face is so cute, but I am a little bit upset by how much color the tortilla lost. If I was a certain other number of YouTubers, I would put a filter on this thing and make it look brilliant orange, but I'll only do that in the thumbnail. Maybe. It's so goddamn good. Like, I am always craving it, so I remember it mostly, but ugh. Sometimes I forget just how good it is. It is freaking to die for. As per usual, the beef is unbelievable. It is tender and shreddy. It is packed with flavor, especially those warm spices. You would think they'd get muddied in the presence of all that other stuff we threw in there, but I really feel like you can kind of get the cinnamon, maybe a little bit of the clove. Prior to a couple years ago, I didn't even know what birria was, really, but it has quickly risen in the ranks of my favorite foods. And as for a holiday version, call me a fake New Yorker, but I'd much rather have this than an orange fake pumpkin bagel.